Welcome to the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. I'm Jennifer Duke. The unemployment rate remained steady at 3.7% yesterday, but there was an unexpected spike of almost 65,000 people who found work during August. So I want to take a closer look at this data today and what it means for businesses looking for staff. And at the same time, earlier this week, we talked about the latest CommBank Household Spending Insights Index, which rose 0.7% in August. This index can actually figure out whether events like the FIFA World Cup and big movies like Barbie are a driver of household spending. It's pretty remarkable. To talk to us more about this data is the Commonwealth Bank's Chief Economist, Stephen Halmarick. Stephen, welcome back to Fear and Greed.
Thank you very much. Very good to be with you again.
So first of all, let's start with that jobs data. Did the results surprise you at all?
Well, we were forecasting an increase of 40,000 on the month, so we thought it would be a strong number. I think the consensus was 25,000, so it certainly was better than that, but even a bit better than our forecast. So, yeah, nearly 65,000 jobs, as you say. A good result.
It's a super strong number, and there was a lift in the participation rate as well. But a lot of those who found jobs were part-timers. Do you think that's an early sign of weakness at all?
Well, when we look at some of the data around the labour market, you can see some softening around the edges, I'd put it. The number of job ads being posted is coming down. It's still quite high, but it's well off its highs. And the number of people applying for those jobs is on the way back up. And of course, we know that the population growth rate through net migration is really rocketing higher. So there are some signs around the edges of some softening in the labour market, but the August number was quite strong.
And how did that align with what the Reserve Bank was probably expecting, and what do you think it means for interest rates?
Well, I think that's another data set the Reserve Bank is looking at. We think the interest rates are going to remain on hold at 4.1% well into next year. As you know, the new governor takes over next week. So I think when Michelle Bullock looks at all the data available at the October board meeting, we'll see interest rates on hold again next month.
And what does it mean for businesses who are looking for workers? Because there is a big skill shortage at the moment. Do we think that we're going to see this tight labour market continue on for a while?
Well, it is tight, as we talked about, but there is some signs of softening around the edges. And I think for the businesses, the issue there is going to be the big increase in net migration. Is that going to help with available staff, skilled staff in areas like health and construction, which we'll need to build all these dwellings that the government is hoping to get done. So I think that it's the increase in net migration that's going to lead to some more availability of labour in the months ahead.
Definitely. How do you think that's going to show up in the labour force data as we see it?
So the issue there is to keep the unemployment rate steady, it's going to require more and more jobs to be created every month. At least 35,000 jobs per month will need to be created to keep the unemployment rate steady, given the size of the labour force is rising. So we actually are forecasting the unemployment rate to move up to 4.2% by the end of this year and be around 4.5% in the middle of next year. That's very much in line with the Reserve Bank's own forecast as well.
Stay with me, Stephen. We'll be back in a minute. I'm speaking to Commonwealth Bank Chief Economist Stephen Halmarick. Earlier this week, property developer Tim Gurner made some comments about unemployment, and he's saying that we need to see a significant rise in joblessness to change workplace attitudes and for people to feel lucky, I guess, to be employed again. Do you agree with him, and do we need to see pain in the economy at the moment?
No, I would not agree with that assessment. I think if we can get the soft landing the Reserve Bank is looking for, the inflation is already decelerating, but it needs to decelerate more. It peaked at 7.8% in the December quarter last year. It's now 6% in the June quarter. So inflation is decelerating. And as Phil Lowe, the outgoing Reserve Bank governor, said in his final speech, if we can get inflation back to target range by, we think, around the middle of next year, without the unemployment rate increasing too much, that would be a very good outcome. So I don't agree with the characterisation that we need to see quote unquote pain to achieve those outcomes.
I think lots of workers will be very pleased to hear that. So looking at the Housing Spending Insights Index right now, because this has just come out from CommBank. So for anyone who missed our chat last time, why is household spending so important in the economy?
Well, household spending is about 50% of the economy. So it's really a key driver. And the data that we have available to us, the Household Spending Insights, covers around 30% of all consumer spending in the economy and is data from around 7 million households. So it's a very large data set that we can produce very quickly. I recently just published the August numbers, and we think it gives us great insights into what's happening in the economy more broadly, especially consumer spending.
So what were people spending on in August?
Well, so the total index, the Household Spending Insights Index, was up 0.7% in the month of August. That's 2.3% in the year to August. So on the month, the biggest increase in spending, up 2.8%, was education.
Gosh.
And we can see that was really foreign students spending money at Australian universities. So quite a significant increase in that. So semester 2 starting and foreign students arriving and beginning to spend money. The second largest increase was transport. That was up 2.1% in the month. And that's driven by the higher price of petrol. So the biggest increase was at service stations. And we know the price of petrol was up 9% in the month of August, and looks like it's going to be up more in September. So that increase in transport spending, I'm not too sure you classify that as a good increase. It's just the price of petrol is higher and we're having to pay the higher price. But as you alluded to in the introduction, the third highest increase in August was recreation, with spending up 1.9% on the month. And that was driven by the category ticketing agencies, which we can only assume is the FIFA Women's World Cup. So, lots of people piling onto the bandwagon that it was, such a great event and getting their tickets perhaps late in the day, but attending games. So that was excellent to see.
I think that's probably a very safe assumption. Do you see any areas where people are kind of pulling back on their spending over the month?
So on the month, there was actually a decline in utilities, which people might find hard to believe, but that's really the government subsidies at work in terms of the energy bills. And also there's a reduction in spending on water, which probably just reflects the weather. But, given the forecast of a very hot summer, that's probably going to change in the near term. It's interesting, if you look at the year to August, where spending was up 2.3%, we can see the biggest declines in spending in the year to August were household goods, down 3.6%, and household services, down 8.4%. So a clear reduction in spending on those everyday goods. Household goods is clothing and footwear and white goods and TVs and furniture and things like that.
All the fun stuff.
Yeah. Household services includes childcare, which we know is up, but other services like cleaning and gardening and trades, so electrical, plumbing, carpentry. So it definitely looks like people are having to shift their spending behaviour, spending less on household goods and services and spending more money on things like insurance. Insurance was up 13.5% year to August.
Gosh.
Education up 14.7%. So shifting away from those big services where prices are rising and less on household goods and household services.
And do you think that trend's going to continue on for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I think so. We've still got the lagged effect of previous rate hikes really flow through to variable mortgages, but also particularly to fixed rate mortgages. So it won't be until early 2024 before the full effect of all the rate hikes are in household budgets, even though we think the last rate hike was back in June. So we do think consumer spending is going to continue to slow into 2024 because we know that nominal income growth is not keeping up with higher inflation, interest costs and taxes. So real household disposable income is going backwards. And with both mortgage costs and rent rising, that just means less money to spend on everything else.
Definitely. And business confidence has been up quite a bit lately, I guess more than most people might expect. Clearly, your data is showing us what's actually happening on the ground. How do these two sort of data points marry together, and are you expecting business confidence to start slipping?
Yeah, business investment has been quite strong. The national accounts showed a pickup in business investment, and the surveys do point towards a continued improvement in business investment as well as government spending particularly on infrastructure. So we think that's going to be a source of growth for the economy, private sector and public sector investment, even as consumer spending slows. So that's pleasing to see, and we think that'll be an offset to that weakness in consumer spending.
Definitely. Stephen, thank you so much for talking to Fear and Greed.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And that was Stephen Halmarick, the Commonwealth Bank Chief Economist. This is the Fear and Greed Daily Interview. Join us every morning for the full episode of Fear and Greed, Australia's most popular business podcast. I'm Jennifer Duke, economics correspondent at Capital Brief, and filling in for Sean Elmer. Have a great day.